Welcome to this very special Halloween episode. This spooky, freaky and scary episode of The Psychic Explorer. Welcome back, everybody. Yes, it is Halloween. It is certainly spooky, and I hope you are ready for a spooktacular episode. First of all, I just want to say a massive thank you to everyone who commented on the last episode. Jono was superb, and every single comment I got about it was absolutely fantastic. So just want to say a massive thank you very much. And speaking of Jono, as if by magic, he has reappeared for today's episode where we discuss your ghost stories. Yes, that is your spooky ghost stories. So let's get into it. Angelo, it's Angelo. Who's Angelo? I mean Jono.
You can call me what you like, just be polite.
What are you? Jono, thank you so much for coming back and recording this second episode, which is going to be a very, very special one. Thank you so, so much.
Thank you for having me. My broomstick has been busy because it is Halloween and, you know, been doing the rounds.
Well, I've got my cauldron out and there are some bats hanging about the place. So, you know, we can...
Don't call her a bat. She's a lovely lady.
My wonderful listeners have sent me some of their very spooky stories. And before we get started, just a massive thank you to everyone who sent me your stories. If they are not featured in this episode, they will be featured in another one later in the year. So don't get on your social media and start accusing me of not using your stories when I beg them from you. But they are coming. These stories have sort of cherry-picked the spookiest ones for today's episode, Jono. So I hope you are ready to be scared out of your pants.
I'm going to turn the lights down, man.
Oh.
Set the ambience.
You know what? I wish this was visualised because Jono has obviously got some sort of Philips Hue smart
I
bulb.
have. How did you guess?
And he's turned it from this lovely hue of purple to this dark. Oh, now it's red. Oh.
It's like a bonfire. I'm just missing a handbag and some high heels now. We've got...
That's not spooky. That's just a disco. Yeah, he's got a disco going. Blimey, where's your litter ball? No, but generally, thank you so much to everyone who has sent in their stories. I just think they are wonderful. Thank you so much. Jono, you are a paranormal investigator, and in our last episode, which went out a couple of weeks ago, we were talking about the very spooky stuff that you have come into contact with. So before we get started, Jono, do you have any spooky stories that you would like to share with the dear listeners?
I've got one or two, Matt, but I'll just tease you with this little one. So a number of years ago, I was very, very fortunate to investigate a very well-known shopping mall in the Norfolk area. And on this particular investigation, we separated into various groups. My group went down to the loading bays in the basement of the mall. It was behind a very well-known order by catalogue outlet, the Big A. It felt ominous down in this particular area. We were standing by a lift and we decided that we wanted to do a bit of calling out to see what was there. You know, I said to the facilitator, would it be okay if we did some calling out? He said, yeah, that'll be absolutely fine. So I said, look, it does feel a bit threatening down here. I really sort of recommend that we do some protection. We stood in a circle, we held hands, and I started to do protection. So whenever you're doing any kind of paranormal investigation, you should always protect yourself because you don't want attacks, you don't want people following you home. So I started doing the protection. And all of a sudden, an unknown force shoved me. And it shoved me so hard, I actually came out of the circle. Obviously we were just standing there, came flying out of the circle, which obviously made us incredibly frightened. It felt really quite threatening. We managed to regroup, and then the facilitator started to become quite unwell. To cut a long story short, he then was attacked by a banshee. And this particular banshee was generally only seen at a particular time of year on a particular moon cycle. And I later heard that it took them about 3 or 4 hours to clear him of this attachment that he'd gotten, and he was really unwell.
Banshee attacks in the Norfolk shopping mall. Blimey, who would have thought? Now, all right, so I feel like I'm going to go back to the last episode here, but what is a banshee? What is that?
Yeah, so a banshee, I think it goes back to Irish folklore. So these were like wailing women who I think had lost their husbands. But if you would imagine a banshee, if you were psychic and you were seeing this in your mind's eye, you would see a smaller lady, very kind of shouty, screamy, in my experience, not of good intentions. So, yeah, something that would feel a bit threatening, but probably not of this world. Probably never been human, I would suggest.
Okay. Well, thank you, Jono. Spooky. That's a good one to get the old shivers going, first of all. Right, let's listen to our first story, which has been sent in by Sajid. Here we go.
We had a new lady resident that moved into the home that I work in. And being an activities coordinator, I went to introduce myself to her in a room, tell her who I am. I thought I could maybe do a little art session with her, and that way I get to know her and everything. Anyway, I started doing a picture. She said to me, "I have never in my life quite met anyone like you." And I said to her, "Well, I don't think you would. People like me, like Sajid, only come once in a blue moon." And then she said to me, "You do know there is a lady standing behind you?" And I was like, "What lady?" And then I turned round, looked behind me, and I don't know what it was, but I just suddenly went into this standstill, like I completely froze. Now, I don't suffer from seizures, but it felt like I was having a seizure. I was just staring really still. I don't know what happened. Everything went into a standstill. That lasted about 10 seconds. And then suddenly I realized that I'm staring at this woman that's like from the 19th century, like from the 1800s. She had a black scarf around her head. I can't remember what top she was wearing. All I remember was she had a black dress on and a cream colour apron, black boots. She had like a cane that was like a little Bo Peep cane, like a shepherd's cane, made out of wood, like a walking stick. And then she had 1 foot forward, 1 foot back. She didn't look scary. She just looked like one of those typical nostalgic women you see in these, sort of sepia photos. And she just looked very proud, but innocent. But obviously, when I realised this woman is standing in front of me, a few steps away from me, and I realised what I'm looking at, naturally, obviously I got scared. Then suddenly I was like, "Ah!" And I turned around like in a shock. And I felt bad because I screamed out so loudly that my lady resident, I got scared that I might have frightened her. And I was like, "Oh, I do apologise. I didn't mean to scream like that." My lady resident just looked at me, very chilled out, very cold-blooded, very calm, and just nodded her head forward, like as if appearing to say yes. And then she looked at me again and went, "You do know she's still behind you?" I was like, "Oh my God, please don't tell me she's still behind me." And I slowly turned my head back. And then, well, whatever it was, I saw this lady from the past seem to have disappeared. it left me in a shock, and I'm still in shock till today. I finished the session. I said, bye-bye to my lady resident. I said, I'll see you very, very soon. But I came down with my jaw open, and everyone just sort of said to me, Sajid, you all right? You look like you've gone pale. And I just basically explained, you're not going to believe this, but our lovely new lady resident has just made me see a ghost, a soul of somebody from the past. And the thing is, maybe I might have imagined it, but I go, no, not like the way I've just experienced this, because I went to a standstill and I froze. And then suddenly I realised this woman is standing in front of me. And everyone actually believed, and they said, we would say you're probably telling the truth because this is a very, very old building. And apparently other people have claimed to have seen souls walking around. So, that was it. I mean, I haven't seen this lady ever since, whoever it was from the 1800s or, whatever period she was from. But that was quite an experience.
Quite an experience, and what a dramatic performance from Sajid. Thank you so much, Sajid. That was fantastic. Jono, what do you think?
Bloody hell, Matt.
Oh, very good, very good. Right, for those not in the know, there's a very good podcast called Uncanny, which I have to admit, I've sort of inspired this idea of this episode, but that is a reference. Very good, Johnny. Well done.
What a story.
Wasn't it good?
It was good. And I'm going to ask you, psychically, as Sajid is telling us this story, are you seeing this in your mind? Is it playing out as he's telling us that story? Because
yes.
For me, it was.
Yeah.
And I'm getting from him that was, I want to say, a farmer's wife.
So, yes, there is more information which did come with it. However, I can't say it because he works in a care home.
Of course.
I'm not going to name where this care home is, not on air anyway. But yeah, from what I understand, the area is known for farming.
Is it? That's interesting.
Yes.
Because I'm seeing a farmer's wife, a working woman, but working for her husband. But he does the majority of the work. She helps him out with this. Yeah, that is a really, really good story.
Have you ever seen an apparition?
I mean, I saw the face of an apparition in the first ghost hunt I did. But since then, the only things I've seen have been psychically. So when we've been ghost hunting, I've seen these things psychically. I've never actually seen a manifestation, not that I recall anyway. So for him to see that I mean, I'm jealous, quite frankly, because that's what we all want to see. We want to see, that physical with our own eyes, don't we?
Yeah. I also thought what was really interesting about Sajid's story was that somebody else seemed to be the conduit for him to be able to see this apparition. Like this woman, his resident he was talking to, told him that it was behind him, and he turned around and had this moment and had this experience. I wonder, how common is that someone else is a conduit for someone else's experience?
I would say that his resident was probably very sensitive herself, but also I wonder if maybe she was somebody that would have been suffering with maybe dementia or something like that. And although maybe not sort of full of her normal, what we would know, faculties, if that's the right word, she's probably more connected with the spirit world. And because she's able to see this woman, I mean, at the end of the day, if this farmer's wife lady wants to be seen, she'll make it known. And that's why I think he mentioned that he was, in a standstill. It's almost like a fright, isn't it? She's kind of frightened him, and that's kind of what's made him pause and in shock, maybe. I would want to ask him, though, a bit more about that. So, as a paranormal investigator, it's great that we've got this first-hand account of seeing an apparition. But I'd want to know, what else did he feel? Did the temperature of the room change? Was there anybody else there that witnessed this? How has he seen it since? Has anybody else reported this this particular lady? So I'd have a few questions for him. But on the face of it, I would say, yeah, I believe him, because psychically I'm tuning into that energy, and I'm seeing, I believe, what he experienced.
Okay, are you ready for story number 2? This one comes in from Kerry.
It happened in my family home. We had just bought it. This is back in 2000. And it was an old house. It was converted to stables. So the manor house was next to it, which is now turned into flats. And the stables had been turned into a house, which was now our house. So it had been lived in by the previous occupiers for a very, very, very long time. So when we moved in, it was in massive need of a massive facelift. So my parents obviously got to work with sort of changing bits up and making things better. So anyway, their bedroom was on the ground floor, and it's a bit of a weird building. Where their bedroom was, there was like a loft above it, which is where the dovecot is, and this big clock. To get into this loft, it's quite tricky. You have to push this piece of wood up and over, and then you have to pull this lever to get the stairs to come down. So it's not something that could just happen. And that's the most important part of the story. To get in there is bloody difficult. It's really difficult with the hatch and everything else. Cue middle of the night. She slept on the left-hand side of the bed, which was just basically below this hatch, and my dad slept on the right-hand side of the bed. And in the middle of the night, suddenly, without warning, the ladder from the loft came steaming down and basically nearly impaled my mum. There is literally no way that this can be explained away. My dad obviously will try to, and both of them are quite like, no, these things don't exist. After that then happened, doors were slamming all the time. So my friends used to call it the ghost house, because you'd walk along the corridor and literally the door was just slamming in your face. And again, it's not like the wind did it or anything like that. It would slam in your face. My brother was 4 years younger than I am, and we moved there when I was 9. And he used to talk to something, and he also got really, really weird dreams when we moved there as well. My mum attributes that to the Twin Towers. He used to get nightmares, but I don't think so. I think there was something weird going on. And like I'd hear like a scream, and I'd run to his room, and then he'd like sit up and start speaking in tongues, very Exorcist style. It was really, really freaky. These weird things kept on happening for quite some time, until the renovations in the house were done. But the house has been very quiet in the last, 15 years or so. I think whoever or whatever was not very happy kind of made peace with us being there.
What do you think?
That is speechless, really.
So my thought on this is that obviously it's physically having whatever this ladder shot down, almost impaled Kerry's poor mum in the middle of the night. But the way that Kerry described it, this loft ladder had to be physically maneuvered and unlatched in order for it to come down. That is a physical mechanism. You know, if there's anything like the loft ladder in my loft hatch, you got to pull it down. Like it doesn't just come down. It's going to come down with some force. Ever heard of something like that?
No, but I mean that's a good example of poltergeist activity. We've got doors slamming in your face. We've got the loft ladder being, pulled down, but also in a threatening way, isn't it? These are threatening behaviours, I would suggest, in that, the ladder nearly impales her mum. Doors slamming in the face. I don't know about you. I'm picking up on 3 spirits here. So I want to say that there's 2. there's two parts to this. So in the loft space, I'm picking up on adolescent males, and I'd say one is older than the other, but certainly probably in terms of age, again, difficult to place, but 14 and 19, something like that. And I think it's them that have been playing. Again, it feels like a kind of a farming kind of vibe to this, or certainly working of the land, I want to say, with that one. With these doors slamming, that to me is, I want to say, a male energy, but it feels a little bit sinister. The fact that her brother was talking in tongues is a bit spooky, if you ask me. But I feel as if that's more linking into this other sinister male energy. What are your thoughts on that?
You're tapping into it. I don't think that's how I work. I'm not, and this is, I love this because you're we're sat here where we are, in our respective homes, and you're able to tap into energy. For me, I can see it in my mind's eye. I can see it all playing out, but I am seeing it more from the point of view of Kerry and more from the point of view of an adolescent being scared. I'm not necessarily tapping into the energies per se.
Because the doors that I'm seeing with this place are, I mean, I might be completely wrong here, but they feel as if they would be like the traditional old, almost like you have like those kind of, it's like a tongue and groove, and then you've got like a big bar across the top, and then a diagonal one that comes across.
Latch and brace doors. Latch and brace.
Exactly that, yes, with like a latch that moves up and down like the black iron.
And I'm knocking, by the way, because that's what I've got in my cottage.
Is it? Ah, yeah, because that's what I see with this property. I don't know whether that's right, but that's what I would associate with this. So that's a really interesting story. But interesting, though, that once the renovation stopped, so did the activity. You get this a lot, don't you, with paranormal activity, whereby if you're doing any kind of renovation that upsets the equilibrium of the home, of the space, it causes upset or angst with the former custodians of that property.
That's exactly what I was going to say. If anyone who watches Uncanny will know, or has listened to Uncanny will know, that renovations do tend to prompt more paranormal activity. Now, Kieran O'Keefe, the resident skeptic on Uncanny, will blame it on mould.
He'll blame it on mould. He'll blame it on inflation. He'll blame it on feces in the water. Anything other than paranormal.
Anything but, yeah. Even when he's got evidence there, still won't. No. Okay, I wonder what Kerry thinks of that. I wonder if Kerry could let me know what she thinks of Jono's diagnosis of a poltergeist, whether that changes things. But yeah, interesting.
But what she doesn't mention in her story is whether or not she didn't go into too much detail about how often. Did it happen at a certain time of day? Did it happen at a certain temperature? What was the weather like when this was happening? Mm-hmm. Who else? Did anybody outside of the family? Did friends also experience these things whilst they were there, or was it only in the middle of the night when everybody was in bed? So,
well, no, she did say friends said that it was a ghost house because doors were closed and stamped.
Of course, but did they witness it, or is it just because of what the family have told her or told them?
See, this is good. You're not just like saying, yes, it definitely is. There could be other alternatives. There could be other options. We just don't know, I suppose, do we?
I'll let you into a little story here. So a couple of years ago, I was invited to go on a public event, paranormal investigation, and I paid my money, went along to this location because I was interested really just to see how other groups investigate, and we went along to this location. I'll be honest with you, I wasn't feeling really anything in this building, so I was surprised that they were investigating it. And during the investigation, there was a chap that was walking around taking photographs. Now, in this particular building, the architraves were painted in very high gloss paint. The gentleman was going around saying, look at this spirit mist that I've got. I've got these orbs, I've got this mist, etc., etc. Everybody was agreeing. Came round to me, and I was like, you do realise that is just a reflection of the flash in the in the architrave. I said, go and take a photograph of another one, and he did, and exactly that. You know, it was most of these things can be explained away, and we need to test those things. We can't just accept that it's paranormal when it might not be. What's the point? You're setting yourself up for a failure without really testing. You want to be producing reliable results.
Absolutely, I couldn't agree more. But let's take a break from these spooky stories at the moment. We've got 3 more on the other side, so join us in a moment. So, in true Uncanny style, are you team believer or are you team skeptic? Let me know. You can find me at Instagram, Threads, Facebook, TikTok at the.psychic.explorer. I'd love to hear your explanations for these stories, whether they be psychic, paranormal, or do you think you have an explanation for these spooky going-ons? Let me know. Are you ready to return to more tales of intrigue, more tales of terror? Let's get back to your stories. Welcome back to this very special episode of the Psychic Explorer, where myself and Jono Angelo are listening to your spooky stories for this Halloween. How are you finding it so far, Jono? Are you enjoying the stories that have come through?
I'll be honest with you, Matt. I'm scared. I've locked the doors, the windows are closed, I'm under my duvet.
Where's your broomstick?
Where's my broomstick? It's resting.
Good, okay.
Next to the cauldron.
Well, make sure you have it just for some protection. This next story is from Charlie. Now, I'll let you in on a little secret here. Charlie is actually my cousin, so this is actually someone that I know. She's going to talk about 2 properties. The first property is her family home in London, where I have been to many a time, spent many a New Year and celebrations there. The second is their family home in France. I've also been there, spent many a restful week there. So any questions I hopefully will be able to answer. Let's listen to Charlie's story.
I've always been a huge believer in supernatural, and I had a couple of experiences myself growing up and as a teenager. First story was in London. The back bedroom of the house in London was always a bit creepy, and we would never want to walk past the door on the landing, so we'd always swing round the banister, me and my brother, so that we could get down the stairs without having to go past that bit of landing. It just gave us the creeps, and that became my bedroom when me and Dom stopped sharing. And for a few weeks I can just remember I would lie in bed and suddenly feel absolutely terrified and know that there was someone behind me. And I would never, ever, ever want to roll over and look because I'd be so scared. I'd just get complete goosebumps and freeze up in the bed. And for some reason, I just knew it was a woman brushing her hair. And I never saw anything or heard anything, but I'd get that same feeling every night, just a frozen feeling, and I'd know someone was there brushing their hair, and it would really creep me out. And then in that room as well, I used to listen to Harry Potter story tapes every night to get to sleep. And every night you'd put it on. And then at a certain point, it was a cassette tape. It would just click and it would stop. And you'd press play and then it would stop. And you'd press play and it would stop. We got a new player and then the same thing kept happening. And then eventually we changed to CDs. And on that player, it would stop as well. And then as I got older, after a few years, it just all seemed to calm down and that room no longer felt scary. But about 5-6 years ago, maybe, my cousin and his girlfriend stayed in that house, and she's very sensitive to like poltergeists and stuff than she had experienced when she was a kid. And we were sat in the living room and she said to me, I'm just going to have to go upstairs and close the door on that bedroom because that door is open a fraction and it's giving me the heebie-jeebies and I can just feel some energy coming down the stair from that back bedroom and I really don't like it. And she went up and had to close the door. But none of us really know why or what happened or the history of that house. The second story was in France. Me and Dom used to hear feet running up and down the stairs like in clogs, and one night we both woke up in the night and we thought our parents were having a party downstairs. We could sort of hear bar sounds and chatting and drinks. We went down and there was no one there and everyone was in bed. And then one evening, everyone went out for a fireworks display and I stayed at home and I was lying in bed reading, and just all of a sudden out of nowhere, I felt a really big rough hand sweep across my face and sort of tuck my hair behind my ear. And I could feel all the calluses on the fingers and could just feel every bit of this hand on my face. And I was terrified. I screamed, I ran out the house and I sat in the pouring rain staring at all the windows to see if I could see anything until my parents got back about an hour later and they just found me soaked, sat outside.
Okay. Thank you so much, Charlie, for sharing your stories. I love that because I can so relate. I know exactly where she is when she talks about these things in both the London house and the France house.
There's a lot to unpack there, isn't there? I mean, if we think about the London house, that back bedroom, I mean, to me, if I'm linking it in, it almost feels as if this is a motherly figure. This lady, I don't know if she was able to see this lady, but I get like this grey hair, almost grey wiry hair actually with this lady. And the reason why the tape player or the Harry Potter keeps stopping is because it's your bedtime. You're not listening to it anymore. Go to bed, go to sleep. That's the feeling that I'm getting with this. So it's like a protection from her. And I would also probably, she might have felt like a grandmother as well. So maybe she was in that sort of an age bracket. But I sort of feel as if it would have been somebody that passed in the house previously. Interesting, though, that did she say it was a cousin that came to stay over?
A cousin and his girlfriend. And the girlfriend.
Yeah. So, I also feel as if in that room there was some sort of portal or some sort of doorway to the spirit world, which is possibly why it felt quite cold in there. It's interesting, isn't it, that she was able to feel that vibration coming from that room, and so much so that she had to go up and close the door. Often, from my experience, if you have got a doorway between worlds, it can cause the temperature to be different. You can feel the fluctuations. It can also feel a bit heavy. So, yeah, that room feels cold to me.
I've slept in that room. I have to admit, I'm probably a bit too drunk to notice anything when I was staying in there. But What I found really lovely about this is that she knew she was rough brushing her hair. And I think that's really interesting, that the way whereas you are claircognizant, Jono, you know things. She didn't see it. She didn't feel it. She just knew this person was there brushing her hair.
So maybe she's claircognizant as well.
What about the France house?
Yeah, so France. I mean, can you imagine laying in bed and a calloused hand goes across your face?
Terrifying.
I would absolutely keep it clean. I would be very scared.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know what to say really about that calloused hand, other than that it feels like a heavy-set man. Again, that feels a bit sinister. I wonder if Charlie is a bit sensitive to spirit. And, you know, when you are somebody who is psychic or has some sort of sensitivity, you can be seen as almost like a lighthouse in the mist. You know, you're like a beacon to them, and they can attract to those types of people because they're like, you can feel me, you can see me. So I wonder if that's why she's had, or experienced quite a bit of activity. But yeah, to me, that feels like a heavy-set chap, labourer, I would say. But it feels like that place used to be a pub or a village bar or that sort of a feel to... I don't obviously know what the building looks like in France. Do you know any history of it?
I do know the history of it. It's not a bar, it's not a pub. It's far too remote to be anything like that. Directly behind the property, there is an old, I think it was even Benedictine monastery. I think the house goes back like 400, maybe even 500 years. And there used to be the bishop that came, when he came to visit, he would stay in that house. And there's even, in the kitchen of the house, there is like an arrow slot window. It's very narrow but very tall. And when the plague had hit the area in the Middle Ages, the priest or the bishop would be in the house and he would do blessings through that arrow slot window to bless and to give communion to the local people who lived on the land through that window when there were plague.
I mean, I'm still guessing that place was a place where people gathered and drank alcohol and celebrated.
Possibly. I mean, it's got a very long history.
That's really interesting.
What I will say is that as far as the sounds of the bar and there being a party downstairs, I also lived in France for a bit, and not at this house, somewhere else, a completely different part of the country. And we lived in this very old farmhouse. It was this very ramshackle place. We were literally camping in it. And when my mum came to visit us, she walked in and she looked at the fireplace and she said, you've got a man here. I said, what do you mean you've got a man here? This is, before any of this opened up for me. And she said, you've got a man sat in the corner and he's just watching and he's just seeing how things are and just keeping an eye on things. I said, okay, fine, whatever. But throughout our time there, we would, because the house wasn't really habitable, so we would live in a caravan outside. You'd walk in and I'd be cooking or something and I could swear I could hear the distant tinkling of music or like a party. And it's just literally just this sort of real faint sound of an old record player and people talking in the distance. So when Charlie said that about the house in France, I thought, I've heard that. I've heard that too. Let's move on to the fourth story. And this is from someone that we both know very well. Let's have a listen.
When I was about 5, we moved to a very old house. It had no heating system in it. It had all the old maid's bells around the place and lots of fireplaces. And I remember going to my room and when the curtains were put up, because they're the old sash windows, in the night the curtains would blow up and I'd lie there sort of just my little eyes peeking out of the top of my duvet. Over the years, they spent some time doing it up, but there was the cellars and the attic, as those old houses did have. I'm one of 4 siblings, And my parents decided it'd be a good place for all of us to do some of the rooms up in the attic. They could be our playrooms as such. Went up there and we tried to open one. It was all sort of barred up and we had to get a chap in to open it. And in that room, because these would have all been maids' rooms, in that room was still an old metal single bed and an old dilapidated wardrobe. And as we looked in, a rat ran across. The other two rooms weren't too bad. My parents turned one of them into a playroom for me and all my brothers. And in it, they put some sort of cushions and a big Scalextrics, which we spent hours playing on, each of us with a different coloured car. And I think it was probably good for our parents because we were up in the top of the house, not bothering them. Anyway, being a slightly dramatic little girl, I decided that I was going to run away. I don't think there was any particular reason behind it, but I was going to run away. I decided that I would just hide behind the door, the stairway up to the attic rooms. I heard the calls of family. Where's Nicola? Where's Nicola? She's disappeared. So I could hear them all scattering around. You go and look in the garden. You go here. I'll go there. And as one of my brothers, whose room was next door to the doorway to the attic, saw the doorway slightly open, he closed it shut. And suddenly, there I was in the stairwell up to the attic, all on my own, with the door locked and shut. And it was very dark. And I stood there and I thought, oh, it's not such a good idea. And my little knees started to shake. And as I stood there, I just felt that chill up my back. And I was just hoping at any time the door would open, because these stairs sort of went upwards and then they curved round before you got to the main rooms of the attic. And as I was standing there thinking, oh, I wish I hadn't done this, suddenly I felt a tap on my shoulder. I turned round, it was quite dark, and there was nobody there at all. Then sort of the light turned on. There was a light up the top of the stairs that once you got there, you could flick on. So I thought, okay, right. I went up there. And all I could hear was, in our playroom, I could hear the cars going round and round on the Scalextric's track. And as I went in and opened the door, there they were. There was two cars racing round on this track, all on their own, with the sort of hand pieces on the side. And when I looked at one of the big cushions my mother had made, there was an indent on it where obviously like a little bottom would have sat. And there was these cars, and literally then one just flicked off and somersaulted and landed in the middle of the Scalextric's track. At which point I screamed very loudly and stomped around so loudly, ran down the stairs. Suddenly the door flung open by one of my other brothers saying, "We've got her, she's here." And as I came out, and I was, oh God, telling my story with little whimpers, more likely trying to avoid being told off for playing a silly trick like that. I was trying to tell them all about what had just happened to me, and no one believed me. But I did go up many more times. It never happened again. But every time I played Scalextrics after that, I always knew somebody was playing with me.
Pop goes the weasel indeed. Oh, that's chills me.
Scary house, that.
I'm not sure if I should be charmed or terrified by a ghost playing with toys.
Again, linking into that energy, what I was seeing were two little boys, where actually I've just noticed that you're wearing like a prison issue stripy top.
Well, I would prefer to call it a Breton French top.
Yeah.
Yeah.
These two little boys wearing a top exactly the same, white and black, horizontal lines, but sitting on they're really young though, playing with the Scalextric, and it's like one of them comes down the stairs to tap her on the shoulder, and then as he runs back up, the light goes on, and then obviously she then goes up to hear the or to see the Scalextric card going round and round and round. So yeah, I mean, it's a long time ago, isn't it? So difficult to. You wouldn't really be able to say, so Nicola, did you test the ambient temperature? What was the weather like? All of those things.
And she was 5, so pretty young.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So probably about 75 years ago. But,
she's going to kill you. She's going to kill you. So for those that don't know, Nicola is the woman that runs the circle that both me and Jono go to. She also appears in episode 12 where she talks about circles, but she will have your guts for garters for that comment,
I know,
Jono.
that's what I like teasing her, because she really is a lovely lady. But yeah, that's, I mean, can you imagine as a 5-year-old child being locked in that scenario whereby you can't get out, you're in the stairwell of a dark, creepy attic. She knows there's rats up there because one's run across the floor. So I guess that would be a lesson, or that was a lesson to don't pretend to run away and tell fibs or whatever, because that could be the consequence of your actions.
Have you ever encountered or heard of a spirit interacting with something as physical as the Scalextrics like that? I know electricity is supposed to draw or supposed to attract entities or things. Have you ever heard of that?
I've heard of it. I don't think I've witnessed it myself. Although, actually, having said that, no, it was a couple of years ago, actually. I was working from home, so this was really must have been close to COVID times maybe. I was working from home and I had to nip to the shops, and I hadn't left the house for a couple of days for one reason or another. And when I walked back in, it felt incredibly heavy. Didn't think any more of it. That night, went to bed. I was on my own, laying in bed, and as you know, I've got Philips Hue in my home, and the lights in my kitchen were flickering. They were flashing on and off. Now, I thought, okay, maybe it's just like static simmering, but this was like proper, I want your attention kind of flashing. Mm-hmm. The problem was I'd actually forgotten and left my pint of water in the kitchen. So I turned all the lights on from my phone, got out of bed in my birthday suit, walked into the kitchen, and I was like, you need to go now, because I could obviously feel that there was something here. Grabbed my drink, closed the door, and got back into bed. Well, that happened a few times, actually, and when I had somebody over to help me with it, I think it was Jules, actually, it was a girl who'd committed suicide in the 80s, and she loved Madonna music, so I think we played a Madonna track for her, and we helped her to cross over. But yeah, so personal experience, playing with the electric, wanting my attention, flickering the lights. But anything else? No, I've not noticed anything else or experienced anything else myself, but I've certainly heard of it.
There's still time. Okay, I've left the best till last. I have to admit, I've really enjoyed compiling these stories and putting the sound effects to them. So I hope you, dear listeners, have appreciated all my hard work. But this particular one, I have listened to Graham's story over and over, because every time I hear it, it just gives me a chill. Listen to this.
Hey Matt, so here is a spooky story from me that actually happened years ago when I was working in a holiday park. So I worked as a blue coat for Pontins in Ireland. It was the year 2008. When I started working, previous employees would tell me the story of a little girl that drowned in the swimming pool, like in years gone by, and that like this believed that like she has been seen and around the park and things like that, and I never kind of believed it, and I kind of was like, I think they were just trying to like spook the new employees out. But throughout the year of working there, little things would happen, and they'd always say like, oh, that's the little girl. Like we'd be backstage getting ready for a show, and like a prop would just fall off the shelf and stuff like that. Things would knock over, or like the lights would just come on without anyone after powering them up and stuff like that. And they'd always use the excuse of, oh, that's the little girl. So it kind of like played on my mind over time. But there was one particular day, and it was actually coming up to Halloween. And myself and one of the other Blue Coat entertainers, we had just finished a daytime activity. And after the activity, we'd clear the room, and we'd like clear up all the stuff we used in that activity, and we'd lock all the doors in the venue. And that particular day, we had an hour until our next activity. So we said, look, should we go get like a bite to eat and bring it back into the venue, and we can sit in the venue and eat it, because it was quiet and there was no other people in there. So we went and got our food, came back, locked the door again and sat down. And about 10 minutes into eating, a little girl like literally appeared from under a table with a towel wrapped around her in swimming wear. And we were like both kind of going, we locked this venue like 20 minutes ago. There should be no one still in it. We checked all the toilets and everything before we locked it, so we knew the room was empty. So we were like, how did she get in? But as we were saying like, oh, where you're grown ups, the girl never spoke to us. She kind of just glanced and glared at us, and it was kind of a bit freaky. And the venue was in an L shape, and we were at the top. And the girl just ran, and she was running towards the entrance, which was behind a corridor. So as we were walking down, because we knew the door was locked, so she should be standing at the door, we got to the door and there was no one to be seen. So we walked around the venue again. We went to the toilets, which were near the main door. Like there was literally nobody in there. So both of us were kind of a bit freaked out, and we were like, oh my God, what's going on? And when we were telling the general manager of the park what had happened, and we asked to look at CCTV footage, because we were a bit concerned, where did this little girl go? And she wasn't familiar. Like I didn't, normally you'd get to know the kids and stuff from like the evening entertainment and daytime clubs, and we didn't recognize her. And when we looked at the camera, you just see myself and my other entertainer friend standing, looking at an empty room. And everyone still to this day believes it's the little girl that drowned. Now, we don't know, did we have this vision in our head where we just tired or deluded, but to this day we're both still convinced there was a little girl. She stared at us, she ran, and she was nowhere to be seen. So that is the first time I think I've ever experienced seeing either a ghost or something that was a vision of a ghost.
Creepy.
Isn't it? Isn't that utterly creepy?
The Kieran O'Keefe in me is like the power of suggestion. You've worked there for some time now. Everything that's bizarre is put down to this alleged drowned girl. Think, props being knocked over and lights coming on, all of that. So the power of suggestion is quite strong. But obviously the believer in me is like, how would you both see that?
And that's it.
There wasn't just one person there, there's a witness. So the two people have seen exactly the same thing. They've obviously gone to check where this little girl has allegedly run to, and it's a locked door. There's nowhere for her to have gone. So what other explanation could it be? Interesting that she didn't appear on the CCTV footage.
That's what trips me up. It's seeing this little girl run across the room to the exit, not being able to get out because it's locked, and looking back on CCTV and just seeing, if it was me and my friend staring at an empty room, knowing that in that moment I'm seeing something visually, but it's not being there on camera. That just freaked me out.
When you watch these programs, paranormal activity caught on camera, that sort of thing, there's a program, I think on Discovery Plus, that is, people's stories, and they sometimes show CCTV footage. One that springs to my mind is a security guard, and the door opens, somebody walks in, he welcomes them in, it's almost like it's a worker, he talks to them for a little while, the person allegedly walks in, there's nothing on CCTV, and then the security guard walks down and there's nobody there, and he's obviously freaked out. So, yeah, what a story.
You said something a moment ago about the power of suggestion, and this brings me to the term priming. So if you've been told already that something is here, this little girl is here, you see things, you hear things, you start associating it, as you said. And I wanted to do a little experiment with you, if that's all right.
Of course.
If you're open to a little audio experiment here, and anyone listening can take part in this, I'm going to play you something, and I want you to just think of the word green needle, okay? What do you hear when I play you this?
I heard green needle or word or something that sounded very similar to that.
Okay. I'm going to say the word brainstorm and play this to you.
I heard brainstorm, Matt.
It's exactly the same piece of audio. I'm going to play it just a couple of times, and each time it loops. Tell your brain either green needle or brainstorm, whatever order you want, and I guarantee you will hear it. I'll let it play 3 times.
See, the more I hear that, the more I hear brainstorm.
So did you tell yourself that, or did you say...
No, because on the third time I heard it, I was saying to myself green needle, and I still heard brainstorm.
Interesting. Okay.
But this is the thing, isn't it? The brain wants to form patterns. It wants to try and understand things. So when we're presented with a photograph of, let's say, a ghost in a window of an old house, but when you really look at it, it's not really. It's just a shadow. It's just the way the light falls. We call that pareidolia. So it's where the brain is trying to make it fit. So over the months or years that Graham... Was it Graham?
Graham the listener, yeah.
Graham had worked as a blue coat at Pontins. It's been kind of put into his mind that there is this ghost, there is this little girl. So the chances are much of what has happened there is possibly coincidence, but you can't explain it to people seeing the same thing, having the same experience. I would trust what he's saying. There's no need to explain it away. It is what it is.
The final point I just want to sort of explore on this one is that 4 out of 5 of these stories, and actually if you take Charlie's story as 2 separate stories, then actually 5 out of 6 stories happened in old houses. Have you ever come across a new build that's been haunted?
Yeah, several, in fact. Jules and I do a lot of clearance work together, so we would be called to attend an alleged haunting somewhere. One that we did very recently, we went to a new build townhouse. In that particular case, the little girl was frightened to go to bed because when she got into bed, she was seeing an old man in the doorway. And the interesting thing is that when Jules came to pick me up before we went to this place, as soon as she picked me up, we started talking about what it was that we were going to, because I didn't really want to know anything about it, but I had blood running down the side of my face, down my cheek. I could feel hot red blood running down my cheek. And when we went to this house, which was only a couple of years old, if that, what I was seeing was a little girl running through a field. I think she was chasing a cat off the top of my head. She was chasing a cat, and she ran into the road and got hit by a car. And the father, who was the man that the little girl who really lived in the house, was looking for his little girl, basically. And the girl that lived in the house reminded him she looked like his little girl that had died in this accident. And when we managed to get him to see her, she obviously came forward for him. He was then able to cross over. So yeah, that house is only a couple of years old, but that's something that's happened on the land close by. And because the little girl that really lived at that house reminded the spirit gentleman of his lost daughter, who he obviously wasn't able to cross over because he was still looking for her, that's what potentially was causing that manifestation.
Thank you so much, Jono. You have been fantastic. I've really enjoyed your analysis on these stories. So just thank you so much. I really appreciate your input and your analysis.
You're very welcome, anytime.
You are the Kieran O'Keefe to my Evelyn Hollows.
All right, calm down.
Or would you rather be the other way around? Right, one question before I let you go. Out of all of today's stories, you've got Sajid at the care home, you've got Charlie in London and in France, you've got Kerry with the poltergeist loft ladder, you've got Nicola with the Scalextrics in the loft, you've also got Graham with the drowned girl who didn't get caught on CCTV. I don't think I missed anyone. Am I missing anyone?
I don't think so. I think
that's it, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, I think so.
Which of those would you want as a spooky bedtime Halloween story?
I think I would go with Graham and that drowned girl.
Yeah.
That to me, that was spooky.
I think you're right. I think for me that is the spookiest. Jono, I will let you say your goodbyes at this point before I witter on to my listeners. So thank you so much, Jono.
Until next time, Matthew.
And a massive thank you to everyone who has sent their story in as well. This episode could not be made without your input, so thank you so much. If you have liked what you have heard today, then you're going to love the Winter Solstice episodes in December. I said in the last episode that I am going on an actual paranormal investigation. Jono will be there, and Jono has mentioned his friend Jules quite a few times throughout this episode and the last one, and she will be the one who will be leading, I guess, this investigation, which I will be recording, and we'll have Jules on afterwards to see how she felt it went. So I'm really looking forward to that, and that will be coming out in December. There will also be more ghost stories as well. You sent in quite a few, and I'm really grateful for you lovely listeners who have sent in your stories. I've saved the scary ones for today's episode. I hope you've enjoyed them. There are also some really lovely stories, some not necessarily scary, but encounters which sort of show a different side of experiencing these ghosts, these spirits, or whatever you want to call them. So look forward to that. And don't forget, if you have any stories of your own, please get in touch. You can find me at the.psychic.explorer. Instagram, Facebook, Threads, and TikTok, if I dare even start that account. But yes, you can find me there. In the meantime, look after yourself, guys. Lots of love. Take care. Bye.